the ability of Doge to operate is a function of whether the government, and this includes the Congress, is willing to take our advice. We're not the dictators of the government, we are the advisors. And so we can advise, and the progress we've made thus far, I think, is incredible. The Doge team has done incredible work. But the magnitude of the savings is proportionate to the support we get from Congress and from the executive branch of the government in general. So we're not the dictators, we are the advisors. But thus far, for advisors, the Doge team, to their credit, has made incredible progress.
You talked about $4 billion a day being saved, but that won't get, which is, and I think everyone can agree that combating waste and inefficiency in government is a very good thing. But if you add that up, it's not going to get to $2 trillion over the lifetime of Doge.
I'm sorry.
The $4 billion a day, Doge is going to run till next July. That's not going to get you to $2 trillion. But you still say it's your aim, so we'll take that as read.
There's what Doge. I mean, I feel you're somewhat trapped in the NPC dialogue tree of a traditional journalist. So it's difficult when I'm conversing with someone who's trapped in the dialogue tree of a conventional journalist, because it's like talking to a computer. Doge is an advisory group. We're doing the best we can as an advisory group. The progress made thus far as an advisory group is excellent. I don't think any advisory group has done better in the history of advisory groups for the government. We do not make the laws, nor do we control the judiciary, nor do we control the executive branch. We are simply advisors. In that context, we're doing very well. Beyond that, we cannot take action beyond that, because we are not some sort of imperial dictator of the government. There are three branches of government that are to some degree opposed to that level of cost savings. So nonetheless, let's not criticize whether there's $4 trillion, and instead look at the fact that $160 billion has been saved, and more will be saved too.
And as I said, I think everyone could agree that cutting waste and indeed fraud in any government and being responsible with taxpayers' money is a very good thing.
Now let's get to the last bit where he cooks Bill Gates, which is my favorite part of this whole thing. Also, he's going to talk about his future plans and how much money he would invest in candidates or in politics. Let's get it.
I do want to ask you about USAID and the comments that Bill Gates made the other day, which I know that you called him. I know you said that already. I wanted.
Who does Bill Gates think he is to make comments about the welfare of children, given that he quoted Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, he said he regrets those, and he spent a lot of his own money on philanthropy around the world over the years. My question to you is, have you looked at the data to check if he might be right that the cuts to USAID might cost millions of lives?
Yes. I'd like him to show us any evidence whatsoever that is true. It's false. What we found with USAID cuts, and by the way, they haven't all been cut. The parts of USAID that we found to be even slightly useful were transferred to the State Department. So they've not been deleted, they've simply been transferred to the State Department. But many times over with USAID and other organizations, when they said, oh, well, this is going to help children, or it's going to help some disease eradication or something like that. And then when we ask for any evidence whatsoever, I say, well, please connect us with this group of children so we can talk to them and understand more about their issue. We get nothing. We never even try to come up with a show off it, meaning like, it's sort of like, well, can we at least see a few kids talk to them and talk to their caregivers,
Okay, well,
and then we
let
get
me put
nothing
this-
as a response because it's what we find is an enormous amount of fraud and graft.
Okay,
And-
let
and
me put
actually,
this example to
very
you.
little actually gets to the kids, if anything at all.
Okay, let me put this example to you because you grew up in South Africa, so you'll know the impact of HIV/AIDS well. And this is why I asked about the data. The US led on international efforts to combat HIV/AIDS treatment, prevention, and there's an initiative called PEPFAR, which is credited with saving 26 million lives in the last 20 years. It was part of the foreign aid freeze, then there was a limited waiver. Its services are disrupted, and UNAID says if permanently discontinued, there will be another 4 million AIDS-related deaths by 2029. So if you look at that example, which is backed up by data, in 2023, 630,000 people died of AIDS-related illnesses, then perhaps Bill Gates' figures are not wrong. Millions of lives could be lost.
First of all, the program, the AIDS medication program is continuing. So your fundamental premise is wrong. It is continuing. Now, do you have another example?
Not,
Since
it's
one
not as if,
scientific
not, Elon, not in its entirety.
It is false.
Not in its
It's false.
entirety. There's a limited
It's false.
waiver, and UNAIDS had said that not all of the services that were previously funded by USAID are continuing. So that's why I put that example to you.
Okay, well, which ones aren't being funded? I'll fix it right now.
Okay, well, actually they're all on the UNAIDS website, so you'll be able to see them. But mostly they are to do with prevention, and for example, the rollout of a drug called lenacapavir, which was hailed as one of the biggest breakthroughs against AIDS for many years, which came out last year. So if you are, perhaps, I'm sure UNAIDS would be delighted if you're able to look at that again.
Yes, but well, if in fact this is true, which I doubt it is, then we'll fix it.
Okay, fine. So, finally, your political influence. I wondered whether you have decided yet how much you're going to spend on the upcoming midterms. Is it you spent a lot more money on the last US election than you envisaged when you were speaking here 3 years ago? Are you going to continue to spend at that kind of level on future elections?
I think in terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough.
Is it because of blowback?
Well, if I see a reason to do political spending in the future, I will do it. I don't apparently see a reason.
What about political influence beyond the US? How often do you speak to President Putin?
I don't speak to President Putin.
You've never spoken to President Putin?
I was on a video call with him once about 5 years ago.
That's the only.
I speak to President Putin. You must. I get it. You
I've
believe
heard
the
you
legacy.
speak. Actually, I've heard you speak about it. For example, in your West Point speech, you said, "Oh, I challenged President Putin to was it an arm wrestle?" And I know the Wall Street Journal has reported your reported conversations.
Oh, yes.
If you're saying they haven't happened other than once, I'll take that as read.
Is there a worse publication on the face of the earth than the Wall Street Journal? I wouldn't use that to line up my cage for paratroopers. That newspaper is the worst newspaper in the world. And if there's one newspaper that should be pro-capitalist, it's the one with Wall Street in the name. But it isn't. So I have the very lowest opinion of the Wall Street Journal. Absolute nonsense. And you clearly believe the tripe that you've read in those papers.
Yeah, he's done what he wanted to do. And he said this from the beginning. I remember when he first had Trump on X. They did an X Live thing, whatever it's called. And they had Trump and a bunch of other people, and